All right, legends, I think we can get started here. To start things off, I will take a look at some Bitcoin charts here with the MDX ALGO 3 and Oscillator 4 and 5 indicators. If anyone has any questions about the indicators, I'll do my best to answer them. Don't always have the answer, but generally I know most of what's going on with these indicators. After that, we can take a look at some altcoin requests, check out that sort of thing if you guys are interested. One last thing, if you do have any questions and you don't have a mic, I see some of you guys have already found the chat box there in the indicators live voice chat as well. That being said, if you have a mic and are doing anything with a lot of background noise, please just do us all a favor and mute your mic unless you're speaking, obviously. If you're getting a lot of feedback from anyone specifically, you may need to manually mute that person rather. I know the one day we were having a bit of issues, just someone was having a phone call or something and it was hard to hear me. So yeah, other than that, welcome guys. I'm glad you were all able to come hang out and talk crypto. To start things off, yes, there's no easy way to say it. Bitcoin is looking weak. However, it is still technically trading at support right now. And I mean, realistically, things are always going to look really weak when we are around support. Just like when people want to FOMO in right at resistance because things just look strong as we're trading up towards resistance. So I know I've pointed it out on these streams and on my own YouTube channel quite a bit now that we're trading at a very important support level. And we're starting to see a whole bunch of bullish divergences. And this is a daily chart and the same thing on the weekly chart. It obviously takes a while to play out here, but we're starting to see a lot of bullish, just hints at some bullish signals in the charts here. If we look at the ALGO 3, this is a daily chart, and I already had this support box mapped out, so that's where I like to see the indicators lining up with my own analysis. You can see the ALGO 3 is trying to call for a bottom, and we're just starting to get that flash in a couple times. Lining up with the Oscillator 5 down here, we have the same thing lining up, calling for potential bottoms. We got a bullish divergence here. If I expand this, that little green line there connecting those 2 points, that's a bullish divergence there. Same with the Oscillator 4 up here. You can see that we have a bullish divergence at these levels. So it's just kind of one of those things that, yes, it looks incredibly weak, but generally speaking, we want to buy support and we want to sell resistance. So I actually did a thing on my Twitter here just the other day. Took a little bit of a poll just asking like if this was your first time looking at a random chart displaying bullish divergences trading into a resist support flip zone, would you look to long, short, or wait for the news and play it? And generally speaking, everybody is saying to long that scenario, and that's kind of what we're seeing in the charts here. One thing that's interesting though is I'm hearing so many people like in real time saying that I'm just waiting for a little bounce to short the hell out of because it's going to absolutely nuke after a little bit of a bounce. But everyone thinking, technically speaking, you'd be looking to long this area. And that's kind of what I've been looking at recently. That being said, again, guys, everything changes. If we end up dropping this support box and flipping it into resistance, I mean, my analysis goes out the window and that's where we start trading differently. I would still be very comfortable with buying spot. I have no problems buying spot at these levels. Even if we were to get a further correction down towards that 10K price target that a lot of people are calling for, I would be very comfortable just spot buying that whole way down. But I'm just saying that if we do end up dropping this support level, that basically my strategy for leverage trading would change. That's where I'd be more looking for smaller time frames, some sort of bounces happening and looking to short some kind of a retest or a double top that forms some sort of a lower high, just looking to short that kind of a thing. But as for right now, I'm personally just not looking to take shorts in this area. I just think that even though, yes, it could end up being an absolutely beautiful play if we get some sort of a momentum short to catch here, but those are always a little bit risky. Quite often they'll end up being a trap where we'll just kind of wick below real quick, get back up, and then absolutely take off with momentum from there. So I'm more so looking to scalp longs right now, and obviously do what works for you, but that's just kind of what I'm looking at. Just the fact that we're at a very strong technically support level. And I mean, I've pointed out so many reasons. I don't know how many of you guys will be familiar with this. If you've been sitting in on these streams, I talk about this every time. This is what I refer to as my Bitcoin cheat sheet. But there's so many reasons from a macro point of view on the weekly chart here. This is a logarithmic chart, so I could fit everything in here. But there's just a whole bunch of reasons why I think we have actually bottomed. And if not, I think we're very close. I do see a few reasons why we could drop further. I can go into those a little bit later. I don't know. Once again, I don't know how many of you have been in my previous video or streams, so I don't want to get too repetitive. But basically, I see about 8 or 9 reasons why I think, from the technicals speaking, I think there's a good chance that we have actually bottomed, unless we get one kind of just final fake out and then take off. But I'm only seeing about 2 or 3 reasons why I think we would continue this downtrend. So we're obviously going to have to see what happens here, but there's just so many bullish divergences, even getting away from the ALGO indicators and bringing up my RSI. I mean, this is a very strong bullish divergence in my opinion. Just looking at this same support level, how much more buying pressure there is at these levels. That's just showing that there's more strength even though we're trading at the same levels. And yes, we can absolutely just ignore that. I mean, one big sell order could totally negate everything and just flush us right through here, and then a bunch of stop losses start triggering and just absolutely melt our faces off. And the bulls will be shitting their pants, and the bears will be, you know, screaming that, hey, they were right. And, you know, they absolutely might be. But as it stands right now, like I said, we're trading in support with a whole bunch of bullish divergences. And that just makes me kind of optimistic. I mean, I think we're going to know within the next week or two, I would think, that this support is either going to have to eventually provide support where we do actually get some kind of a bounce and maybe reclaim my downward sloping trend line as new support, or they're just gonna eventually, the bears are gonna have to pull the trigger and just destroy the bulls there. So we're gonna have to see. We're at a very interesting point in the market. We have this strong downward sloping trend line, which would be a very strong resistance level in my opinion. The fact that we've tested it 3 times absolutely perfectly, just where we got shut down, where everyone was getting FOMO just a week or 2 ago here. That was just our 3rd rejection point along that trend line. And if you guys have been following my channel or here, you'll know that I just love, I only really consider trend lines strong if they have at least 3 touch points on them before breaking out. If we would have just kind of got this as our 3rd attempt here, just getting a break out of this level, I would have given it a lot less weight. I would have considered it a possible fake out, and I think we would have got this move back down anyways. I think we would have came into contact with this horizontal resistance and got shut down real hard just because we never had this 3rd touch point. But now that we have that 3rd rejection, I think Bitcoin's in a good place as long as we can get above this purple downward sloping trend line on the 4th attempt. Even if we come back and we would pull back to my box where this line kind of goes back down here, get kind of somewhat of a retest of both those levels, I think that could be a very explosive pivotal point for the market. Obviously, we have to break that downward sloping trend line and wait for that pullback. That, I mean, if it were to play out that way, we're kind of looking at the middle of October until we'd reach that spot there. But I think this will be an interesting level in the market to watch if we do break above this downward sloping resistance line. What do you guys think long-term, mid-term, short-term? Like, do you guys, have you been watching this downward sloping trend line? Do you think that's going to be significant? Do you only play horizontal levels, or what are you guys thinking? What else can we find here? Hop over to the 4 hour just to start zooming in a little bit. That's kind of my macro analysis. Is obviously I am, you know, still watching that support level. But one thing I wanted to point out, I actually think it was the hourly, something to be a little cautious of. This looks a little bit weak to me. We have this upward sloping trend line that was support, and obviously we have our 3 touch points. I'm going to consider this one, and this whole little cluster here I'm going to consider one just because there's no real leaving the line there. But obviously it was respected as hell right here. So I think the fact that we did drop that line and now we're kind of respecting it as resistance here, you know, things aren't looking so good. We might be seeing a bit of weakness, and if this line does hold as resistance now, I think it could dump us lower into my support box, and we're going to have to hope that it at least does hold. If not, if I just go to my daily, many of you have probably noticed that on my daily chart here, my support does go quite a bit lower than my wicks back here where we have bottomed. And that's where I'm saying if we haven't bottomed, I think there's a little bit of room to go to the downside yet. The reason why my support box is drawn down a little lower is if I go to my macro scale here, just looking at Fibonacci levels. So basically taking a Fibonacci pull from the bottom of our previous bear market to the top of our bull market. And that 786 Fibonacci line, which I just absolutely love. Those of you following along in the Bitcoin trading group or anything like that in the Discord, you'll know I'm always referring to that 786 and 886 Fib lines. And that's just kind of why I brought the support box down to that level, because I think it's absolutely fair play if we end up wicking down towards the 786. And as I mentioned, if we end up dropping that box, I think it could absolutely get violent to the downside very quickly. And that's where I think we could be targeting levels closer to 10K, because, you know, a lot of analysts have been kind of predicting that 14, 12, 10,000 US dollars. And that is kind of, you know, our next Fibonacci line, the 886 lines up there, as well, just horizontal. As far as a horizontal level goes, I mean, you can see that we're really kind of respecting this level. We're hitting it as resistance, whole bunch of resistance, and that's kind of where we ended up finding support in our next bull market there. So that's obviously an important level just from a structure point of view. And as well, if we were to get a typical bear market retrace of that 85%, kind of 80-85%, that would also line up with that level. So that's kind of the main reason why I think that this bear market might not be done, is just because typically speaking, they love to pull back 80-85%. Again, for those of you who have been in these videos before, you'll know that I point this out every time. Just going back to our bear markets, obviously, yeah, just pulling back about 85% somewhere in there. Really, even this very small move, just any very serious crash to the downside here, again, just 82%. That was only over the course of a week or two, so we think things are volatile now. I mean, look back to when Bitcoin was very early and didn't have much for price action, and we were in some serious price discovery. That's just wild how fast that volatility was happening. So yes, things are taking a little longer to play out now. The market is maturing. There's obviously a lot more money in the space and that kind of thing. So things do take a little bit longer. So yeah, just like I said, that would be my main reason why I think we could actually drop down towards 10K. But other than that, I mean, I have so many reasons I've outlined in the past about why I think the bottom could be in. Just as far as a resist support flip level, I mean, doesn't get much more important than a macro market cycle level, especially when it's the only level that really had any consolidation for about a month or so in our parabolic run there. So just to see that level flip into support now, right at the 786 Fibonacci line, this upward sloping trend line, we are starting to lose this yellow line. I'll give it that. It's looking fairly weak, so I wouldn't want to see that flip into resistance just because it is a 10-year long trend line. But yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen. Maybe it's not as significant as, let's say, the horizontal resist support level. So we're going to have to watch how that happens. If you guys didn't see me like really explain this in detail, I made about a 14 or 15 minute long video about my Bitcoin cheat sheet on my YouTube channel. Be sure to check it out. I just think that was a very good video with a lot of useful information, and just explaining about, yeah, like I said, 7 or 8 reasons why I do think that the bottom is in. And a lot of people are just too bearish right now as we're trading into support with bullish divergences. Sorry, I'm just going back into our chat here and seeing what we got here. We got a picture. Yeah, so I mean, you've got a lot going on there with a lot of trend lines on that picture there, but obviously a lot of coiling up. I assume that's kind of what you're getting at with that. It kind of looks like there's gonna be a big breakout happening fairly soon. Is that what you're kind of referring to with that picture? What else can we get into here? Yeah, I mean, things are looking weak. This is obviously zooming into the 5-minute here. Just kind of looking at a very micro swing here and looking at how these Fibonacci lines work and why I love using them if I'm looking to snipe entries on positions. I mean, if you took one like I did here, just from our very micro swing low to our swing high here, you can see that I know I've pointed out in the Bitcoin channel there a couple of times that what I like to do with entries quite often is snipe and ladder in longs around the 786 and 886 level. So I'd have half of my position laddered in here and half of my position laddered in here. I would have had an entry right in the center of my green box there. And quite often when you get that short-term reversal, you end up testing up to our 2... Oh, that's hard to see. Let me just try and get this. That would be our 236 Fibonacci line. That's quite often where I want to end up just at least closing about half of my position. I'm very keen on when I use high leverage, especially. Some of you guys probably see that I'm using ridiculous leverage in there sometimes, like 50x or 69x or 25x, whatever. I like to start taking profits very quickly and updating my stop loss very quickly as well. That's just something I've learned over the years, is that way, even if you're wrong on your predictions, you can still end up making some money and at least protecting yourself. Because honestly, what's more important in these markets than being able to predict what's going to happen is just being able to react, because things change. Your analysis isn't always going to play out perfectly, so just being able to react to how the market is reacting to certain levels and reacting to your analysis, that's kind of the important part of trading, in my opinion, because I usually don't set blind orders. I usually wait to see what candle bodies are kind of doing around certain levels I'm watching and that sort of thing. But when I'm laddering in with Fibonacci's, sometimes I'll just do it blindly like that because I can end up getting kind of a tight stop loss. But yeah, just like I said, being able to react to the market, I think, is far more important than being able to predict the market as far as trading standpoint goes. New York 6 p.m. Are you talking about the daily close there? That would also be the weekly close today. I am interested to see what happens. Let's just get rid of a few indicators here. Let's take a look at the daily. Just going to get rid of this indicator just to make it a little easier to look at here. Yeah, one thing I want to point out, guys, too, is I think this daily candle actually matters quite a bit, just because, like I said, obviously we're trading in my support box still. We have a whole bunch of bullish divergences. And right here, we are looking weak. The fact that we're not just absolutely blasting off when we have these nice green candles, we're not really seeing any momentum follow through from the bulls there. But what is interesting is the bears are not pulling the trigger either. You can see that the candle bodies are not engulfing this candle. Like, if this red candle right here, the one right after this large green one, if this red candle would have at least engulfed this green candle and closed below the wick of this candle bottom, then I would have been a lot more concerned, just because that would really be showing weakness from the bulls and the bears are actually pushing candles lower and that kind of thing. But really, we haven't had any bodies closing lower from the bears there. Ever since we got kind of this little wick to the downside, that little, I'm going to call it a bullish fake out because it got bought right back up. But the bears are not able to close candle bodies below that level. So I think if they don't act soon, I think, just like I said, since we're trading at support with all those bullish divergences, I think if the bears don't act within the next couple of days, I think the bulls are going to take their try at things and push us out of this green box. And like I said, from there, if we break out from this downward sloping trend line, I think a retest of that would be very powerful for Bitcoin. Let's just gonna clean this up a little, get rid of this, get rid of these Fibonacci's. Something else I wanted to talk about, and again, this will be a little repetitive if you were in my last video or if you've seen my Bitcoin cheat sheet, but just the RSI is really giving me a bit of a early bullish feeling as well, because you can see that in typical bear markets, whenever the weekly RSI has got oversold, that has marked the exact market bottom. Obviously doesn't have to happen again, but you can see that our previous bear markets, that's exactly what was happening. And so far what we have is the exact same thing. Yes, we're not taking off, but I mean, did any of these levels look strong? After we got to these levels and we were trading sideways, everyone was calling for lower prices. I'm sure of it. Things looked weak as hell if you go back and look that far in the charts. Same with back here. I remember when Bitcoin was kind of dropping, we were at that $3,300 level and people were calling for $800 US Bitcoin and that sort of thing, because things looked weak as hell, because we just dropped, we got our final capitulation, we trade sideways, and people think we're in a continuation pattern. But the way I see it, after we get that RSI getting into oversold territory on the weekly, that seems to be where the bears have kind of run out of steam, and then the bulls just slowly, it turns into an accumulation phase. And on top of that just oversold territory on the RSI, you can see I also have this purple line mapped out, which is the RSI breaking out of a downtrend line. And it actually happens before the price of Bitcoin breaks out of its downtrend. You can see I kind of line up the RSI downtrend line with the price of Bitcoin downtrend line. And the RSI actually breaks out a little bit sooner, and just as an early warning sign that Bitcoin's about to do the same thing. You can see that we did it back here as well. We broke out from the RSI there, but it waited until here to break out from with the price. And you can see that just a couple of weeks ago, the RSI has done the same thing. And I wouldn't really be too surprised with all those bullish divergences and things that, you know what, maybe in a month or two, we end up reclaiming this white downward sloping trend line and we start trading to the upside. I'm very curious to see what happens with that. I just think that the weekly RSI has been a fairly strong indicator in the past, and obviously anything can happen. Nothing has to repeat itself like that, but Bitcoin obviously does love to have repetitive characteristics. And I don't want to discredit that, because that's called for market bottoms the last two times it's happened here. So I want to at least consider the possibility that the market may have bottomed now. I mean, yes, the economy is an absolute mess, and you can say what you want about that with inflation and everything. There's always a reason in the media that something is going to be different. I mean, I'm sure there was reasons why this bear market was going to be different and we were going to drop further than normal. Just like there was reasons why this bull market was going to be different, because we had institutional money and, we were going to be up only and this was going to be the biggest, most explosive bull market, blah, blah, blah. Well, in reality, it was the smallest percentage gain market or market cycle. And that's nothing to be alarmed about, because as markets mature, they take a lot more money to grow. Now we have leverage trading. Ever since back here, that's where leverage trading got introduced to the market. So it is a different game. That's where anything can happen. Nothing has to play out the same. But technically speaking, I'm just looking for probabilities in the charts. If I were a betting man, and I definitely am, I just kind of look to play the probabilities. So as far as I'm looking right now, we're at support until it breaks. If we break this green box, everything changes as far as my trading strategy goes, but I will still have a ton of confidence in Bitcoin long time. Like I said, I'll just spot buy all the way down towards 10K. I don't think I'm lucky enough to get those prices again, so I don't know. We'll just see what happens. What else can we get into? Hot topic, obviously the DXY. One thing I was watching for, and this had me a little bit bullish on crypto, was that the DXY was struggling at the 786 Fibonacci, pulled top to bottom. So I was looking for resistance rather than support if I were pulling bottom to top. I treat that level just the same on the opposite end. I think that's a very important resistance level when pulled top to bottom. And the fact that the DXY was struggling there with a bit of rejection with a couple of weekly candles there, I thought that might be a good sign for Bitcoin. As I mentioned, I also really put a lot of faith in the 886 quite often. That's kind of when things get overextended, in my opinion, on a first run. That's going to have to be the next level that I'm watching as far as the DXY goes. I think if it gets rejected hard from that level, get some kind of a fake out, and then end up, let's say we drop this parabolic uptrend, that would be absolutely great for crypto. But I mean, it's way too early to say that's going to happen because, I mean, there's no denying it. The DXY is in an absolutely extremely powerful position. It's obviously been outperforming so many markets. I mean, when you look at the euro and the Great British Pound and all that kind of thing, like the dollar is just eating everything up right now, and that includes crypto. So, I mean, I can't discredit the uptrend here, but I just want to say that as far as a technical point of view goes with Fibonacci's dating all the way back to 2001 here, it's just, I think that we're going to be getting to an important resistance zone fairly soon. If the DXY ends up breaking past these highs over here and we start targeting highs set way back in the 80s, I honestly don't know what will happen to the crypto market in that situation. We might see a serious shift in the macro trend where things are no longer an up-only mentality. That might be where we start to see some sort of rounding top and start actually testing back into previous market cycles, which we obviously haven't had before. Yeah, that would be wild. That would definitely be something to see. Let me just catch up on messages here. Yeah, that's exactly it. It does feel like the Dixie can definitely go higher, just depending on how things go here. Like I said, the economy is an absolute mess. We'll see if we get some sort of a weird black swan event, whether the world's going to war or we get another plague or whatever. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with the DXY in the coming few weeks here. I'm personally hoping to see it top out at that 886 Fibonacci line that I pointed out, because I think, once again, that could be real good for crypto. And even if the dollar was going to gain strength from there, I just think it would make a lot of sense to at least have some sort of a pullback, just because, I mean, this thing is going absolutely parabolic at this point. I mean, I'd hate to see what happens if we do end up treating this old resistance here as support and taking off from there. That could be wild to see. But until that happens, I don't know. I'm really interested in watching this upward sloping trend line. I think as soon as that were to drop, like eventually it's going to have to lose momentum. And if it starts respecting that line as resistance, I think at that point it makes sense to go very heavy in crypto or just risk on assets in general. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. That's just the way I'm looking at things. Does anyone... Here, let's actually take a look at the SPX quick. It is finding support at a level that I was interested in. It's definitely not looking strong. We have a very well-defined resistance line. We have our 3 touch points here, so that's nice to see. I would really like to see us kind of reclaim that and flip this horizontal, well, right now it would be resistance, but to reflip this horizontal resistance into support and then start tackling all-time highs once again. That would be nice to see, but yeah, right now, obviously things look weak again. In my opinion, we are kind of trading at support. I mean, this is where we found support back here. Let's see what some indicators say here. The oscillator 4 did claim that we were oversold on the SPX here, the S&P 500, with a bullish divergence there as well. And this is on the weekly, so that's fairly significant in my opinion. Never got any kind of a bottom signal on the oscillator 5. I don't see any bullish divergences. RSI. The RSI looks like it has a bit of a bullish divergence. If we're trading at the same levels, the RSI is a little higher, so they're technically a little more strength, kind of trading at the same levels. But I mean, it's obviously in a downtrend. I mean, we're setting lower highs, lower lows, so there's no doubt about it. The S&P 500 is still technically in a downtrend, so it would have to really break this red resistance line, in my opinion, before it starts looking good. What do you guys want to look at? Do you guys want to look at altcoins? Is there anything else you want me to touch on with Bitcoin? Do you guys have any questions about the indicators? What something does, if it's not quite looking right or anything like that? Oh yeah, you can see with the ALGO 3 obviously got a short signal this week. I mean, sometimes it is lagging, so we could obviously get some sort of a bounce. That's one of those times where, you know what, the indicator's not necessarily lining up with my analysis. Even though there's a short signal there, it is giving us a short signal right into support, so that's not really something I'm going to take all too serious. Yes, it's a bit of a warning sign that things are weak with the S&P 500. But again, that signal's coming up a little late as we're trading right into support, so I don't know how much weight I want to give that. Let's go to the daily chart here. I mean, the ALGO 3 was trying to flash a bit of a bottom recently. It actually called that short on the daily pretty nicely, if we're looking at this. What else can we look at, you guys? Just stare at Bitcoin on the 5-minute chart here, give ourselves some high blood pressure here. Let's see, just gonna clean things up a little bit. Trading down towards the 886. This is obviously a very micro swing since this is the 5-minute. Let's bring up the ALGO 3. It's probably gonna give a short signal right away. These potential bottoms obviously not playing out so far. Oh yeah, there we go. That's some excitement for us. Let's pull a bigger fib. Let's see where things are targeting here. Well, so far we've tested the 786 absolutely perfectly. You guys know how I feel about that. What I should have done before this video actually is this would be one of those situations where I would like to ladder in a bit of a position. Obviously, I'm not telling you to. This is just something that I like to kind of look for snipes for, as if I laddered in lower leverage because things are very volatile and this is actually a pretty big move. What are we looking at? If we were to drop from here, where do we have some more structure? Yeah, even just dropping below here, I mean, if you're using any kind of high leverage, that can obviously lead to a fairly large loss. But even at like 10x leverage, What I would like to do in this kind of a situation is, let's say, for example, cut an order into three parts, ladder in a little bit at the 786, the 886, and our support level, and have our stop loss, I don't know, give it a little bit of wiggle room, right? But you do that and you help drop your entry a little bit, so it just cushions the loss if you are wrong. And you know what? If you end up being right, I mean, one of the hardest parts about that is obviously maintaining discipline, because if things start to reverse here and you end up adding to your position because you never got enough into your position, obviously you're ruining a position that could have been very nice. Because if you're laddering in at these three spots, for example, your average entry is going to be somewhere down here rather than accidentally getting your average entry way up there. So obviously you're just able to maintain a better stop loss and just keep a level head on your shoulders, kind of thing. But that's one way that I like to look for long setups if I am feeling bullish. Like I said, on that hourly chart, things were looking a little bit concerning, so I don't know how I feel about taking a long right now. Might look a little more into it tonight, but for now I'm going to have to see what happens. But yeah, that's just kind of a way I look for sniping longs anyways. Let me just catch up on some messages here. As far as all that Fed news goes and all that kind of stuff, honestly, that's above me. I don't really look into fundamentals too much, just because I think that there's a good chance I'm going to misunderstand how things work. Perfect example would be, you know what, when COVID shut the whole world down, I thought, you know what, this is going to be one of those times where why would it make sense for an asset to absolutely explode? Because no one's going to have money. Everyone's going to be scared. No one might have jobs for a couple years. Like, we never knew what was happening. It was total chaos and total panic. And that sparked absolutely massive bull market. And yes, it makes sense when you think about it with kind of front running inflation and that kind of thing. But just when I read the news and when I listen to things like that, I just feel like there's a good chance I'm going to confuse myself and not look at it properly. So that's where I just like kind of drawing colorful shapes and just playing the charts, because the structure of the charts is going to change even if that news, that news might absolutely be worth playing, but it will show up in the charts eventually too, where you're going to see that structure change, obviously, and stuff like that. So you can still end up playing that news. You just might get a little bit of a late start to it and play the momentum of it. But that's just me personally. I know, like, let's say, I know some people who trade the news and trade fundamentals only and who have had great success. Just me personally, I always find that, especially last bear market, because I bought in about 3 days from the 20K all-time high of that market cycle. I FOMO'd in right at the top, and that's when I started my crypto journey. Just kind of learning about the charts on the way down really helped me, because every time I would look at news, I would feel too bullish on things when not understanding that we were in a bear market. So just when I learned how to play structure rather than looking to play news and being like, oh, this is super bullish, I better hold these Tron coins for the next 95% loss, kind of a thing. That's how I look at the news and fundamentals. They just don't always make sense to me, and that's just me personally, so I just like playing the charts. Sorry, kind of a long rant to just answer your question that no, I don't really have an opinion on that kind of thing, but that's my take on it. Interested to hear what you think, though. Like, do you think it's going to have a big impact on the market? I am tempted to just try and ladder in along here. I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't because of that 1 hour chart. Like I was saying, there was some weakness showing there. feel like it would make a lot of sense to end up kind of testing some lower fibs, more like a bigger swing like that. Since we broke this upward trend line, I wouldn't be surprised to see us test more so down to this 786 and 886 fib. I'd be interested in trying to scalp a bit of a long off this 786. I might have to consider that tonight. CPH altcoin. Is this one easy to find? Bitfinex. CPH. I guess. Oh wait, that wasn't the right one. Where would I find it? Is it on TradeView, or would I need to go on like CoinGecko or something like that? No, that's not the coin at all. CPH. Cypherium? Is that the one we're looking at? What kind of a market cap we got looking at here? Market cap 12 million? Just under 13 million? That is a nice small market cap if you're into finding, you know, low cap lottery tickets kind of things. Again, I have no idea what this coin is. No idea on fundamentals or anything like that. Looks like it probably has real low trading volume. Yeah, less than $10,000 a day. A little bit risky to be trading and that kind of thing, but I mean, yeah, I have no idea what kind of a project this is, but that's absolutely a nice small market cap if you are into finding those hidden gems. Might have to look into that one. I know I've looked into like a few that are, you know, kind of around the $1-2 million market cap, but I'm putting in such small positions into those kinds of coins. That's a total that's a total gamble in my opinion. Whenever you're getting into the DeFi space and getting into those market caps that are under 20 million, or, you know, like, that's just such a small project that anything can happen. So I look at them with very high risk, obviously. So I always go very light in those kinds of positions, just because I figure, you know what, if it is going to blow up and it's going to be 100x or whatever anyways, then you don't need a ton of money in there. Obviously, yes, you're always kicking yourself and wishing you went in heavier when something goes right, but those things tend to go wrong quite often too, right? So started after the Fed announcement. Yeah, because when does it, this goes back to November 2021? Interesting. Yeah, I might have to look into it. I know nothing of what it is or anything like that, but I'm interested. It's a nice small market cap, like I said. What do we got here? Yeah, the old daily chart here, not looking super strong. Oh, it's from 2017. Okay, so it actually has a few years of experience to it. Yeah, guys, something that I'm really looking for right now as far as the daily chart goes is I would love to see, let's say, oh, we only have a couple hours left in this candle here, but even if we could close this candle green right above this green box, I think that would be absolutely beautiful looking, just because we'd be kind of respecting where this box, kind of the top of it, began here. That's just the way I like to map out these double bottom, triple bottom boxes, is I like to kind of map out the kill zone below the daily candles like that. So really anywhere down towards this level, obviously double bottom territory. So I would love to see these daily candle bodies start respecting the top of this box again, especially if we ended up getting, let's say tomorrow, even today, obviously anything can happen in the next couple hours. But to see some sort of an engulfing bullish candle at this point, like something that just wipes out the day before's losses, we actually get a candle body closing beyond the wicks of the previous bearish candle. I think that would be absolutely beautiful to get some sort of an engulfing candle any day now. And just to be back above this support box again with all those bullish divergences, I think Bitcoin would be in a very good position. The longer we trade at these levels with these bullish divergences, the more bullish I'm getting. I know there is the whole thing that, you know, the more times that we tap away at this support level, I mean, technically it should be getting weaker every time we tap it. But the fact that the RSI is climbing, the oscillator 5 is showing bullish divergences, the oscillator 4 showing bullish divergences. I think I pointed this out last week. If I go on the weekly, the ALGO 3 also has a bullish divergence, which I found interesting. Going back to how the market has reacted to those in the past. I mean, those blue dots have been quite significant on the weekly time frame. If we go back to this bullish divergence we had when we started trading at support, I mean, after this, let's say after that candle closed, I mean, that sent the market into 112% pump. Even this one, even though this was kind of the start of our bear market downtrend, after that candle closed and we got that bullish divergence, I mean, technically we still did get about a 35% pump to the upside. So the fact that we're seeing one of those line up at such an important support level, that's just one of those things, you know, even if we do only get kind of a small bounce, a short-term relief rally, anything like that, which would kind of mimic the other one at like 35-40%, that would kind of bring us up towards this old resistance here. And for those of you guys who are kind of familiar with one thing I'm looking at with that level, is obviously it would make a lot of sense to see that support flip into resistance, just because that was such an important level for the whole first half of our bear market. And so obviously that would be an important level for the market if we get up to that level. A lot of people would be expecting us to absolutely dump from that level, getting a harsh rejection and setting new lows and all those kinds of theories. I don't know if that's necessarily probable. Absolutely possible, but not so much probable. And my main reason for that is if I look at a very similar level from our previous market cycle, that same thing should have happened. If we were going to continue on a downtrend, we should have flipped that support into resistance. But instead of getting a harsh rejection, we just kind of consolidated below it, tapping away, and eventually just got our breakout. And again, I think that this drop of this box, I think we would have reclaimed this box and held it as support, but the fact that we had COVID, it was actually a black swan event. So I'm going to give a little lenience to that. I'm going to consider that, you know, I don't think we would have lost that support box again had it not been for COVID. There was a couple things lining up with it. I think the 200-week moving average actually lines up perfect with it as well. Actually, I can bring that up on this chart. And that's one thing that I want to kind of touch on with you guys here. I'm kind of getting close to an hour, and you guys don't have a ton of requests, so this is going to be one of the final things I touch on with this Bitcoin cheat sheet once again. Is just pointing out this red box. As I mentioned, we kind of get our temporary support for a bear market, or right before our bear market downtrend. We have that very clear horizontal support, get our final capitulation, and then our sideways accumulation. I mean, you can see that happened in our previous bear market. Like I said, I bought into the market right about here. Had a very interesting learning experience on the way down, but this is that infamous descending triangle we all know and hate. And same thing, we drop that support eventually, get our final capitulation and our sideways accumulation. Back here, same thing, we had this very important horizontal resistance level, we dropped it for our final capitulation, got our sideways accumulation. So I have no reason to believe that this would be any different. That for some reason this is the first market cycle where we like get back up to that level and then just send into complete free fall from there, like people are claiming that's going to happen. That never happened at any of these other macro cycles, so I just don't really see why we would turn that into an absolutely devastating level of resistance. I think it could absolutely give the trend a bit of a struggle when we get up there, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily send us to new lows or anything like that. And I think if we do reclaim that box, just like these previous market cycles, you can see that's kind of where the bull market really took off. As soon as we broke our downtrend line, reclaimed that old support as support once again, that's where things just went parabolic. And same thing here. We reclaimed the support. Like I said, I don't think we would have dropped that level had it not been for COVID, but when we reclaim that blue box, that's absolutely where we took off again. So I think we're going to need to see the same thing. As soon as we kind of reclaim that, I'm going to say around 33,000 US dollars. I think that's where we're going to hold that level as support and absolutely turn into a parabolic bull run again from there. One thing to watch out for, and I know I pointed this out last time, was I think we're going to have a bit of a struggle around 49 or 50,000 US dollars. And just one of my reasons for that is, again, just checking Fibonacci lines. This will be looking at the 618 Fibonacci level instead. You can see that it lines up quite well with this structure right along here. And I think a lot of people are going to get very bullish at the wrong time. I think once we get up to that level, people are going to think that, you know what, we're absolutely going parabolic. This is the new bull market. But I think that's where we're going to see a harsh rejection and we actually come back to retest this blue box. And I think that's when a bunch of people are going to get real bearish again, thinking that's where the market's going to enter a new bear market or just kind of carry on this one or whatever they want to claim. But I think it'll be very natural price action just to face a bit of a pullback at that level and kind of come back and retest these levels. But I think when the price actually gets above that 618 rejection and holds it, I think that's where things are going to get juicy as well. And just to show you what I mean with that, if I go back to this previous market cycle, and again, some of you guys, this is probably repetitive and I'm sorry, but pulling the Fibonacci like so, you can see that's exactly what happened. We never got shut down at this support box flipping into resistance like what people were calling for. And I remember getting wrecked on a short there because that was just seemed like an easy technical, it seemed like a responsible technical trade, that looking for that support resist flip and breaking down from there. But you can see where we struggled was the 618 fib line pulled top to bottom. That's exactly where we got that first real harsh correction to the downside there. But you can see that once we claimed that level, once we actually broke above, that's where Bitcoin went parabolic again there. I can go back one more market cycle here, and you can look at the exact same thing, pulled top to bottom there. And yeah, like I said, this is kind of where we saw a harsh rejection there, was right at the 618 level. And when we reclaimed that level, and look at that, even respected it as support afterwards, that's where Bitcoin went absolutely parabolic once again. So I just want to put that on your guys' radar, that I don't think the harsh rejection is necessarily going to be where people are expecting, kind of around that 32,000 US dollar level. I think we're actually not going to have that hard of a time with that level. I think that we are going to face the harsh rejection around 50,000 US dollars and end up treating that lower level as support rather than resistance. Not to say that there will not be a relief rally with more downside from a geopolitics view. Yeah, absolutely. Like anything can happen. Obviously, like I said, the whole structure of this chart could really change drastically if we drop this green box, but especially if we end up dropping 10K and, retesting some much lower levels from our previous market cycle. That would be a little bit alarming. But I'm just talking just strictly from a technical point of view. Those are kind of my reasons why I think the market has bottomed, and kind of what we're looking at in the future before we see the next parabola. Just kind of a few of the things that I want you guys to watch out for there. Oh, Secret Agent Man, welcome. Good to see you made it. I am probably going to end up putting this on my YouTube channel as well. I am recording this so that I can share it for anybody who missed this, or anybody who showed up late and missed certain parts of it or whatever. But yeah, I will upload it. It generally takes a little longer for me to upload these videos because they're obviously much longer. But yeah, I should have it uploaded in the next 2 or 3 hours, I'm thinking. I don't know. We'll see how quick it can get loaded, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Does anyone else have any other questions? I think we kind of went over everything I wanted to talk about. Like I said, yes, Bitcoin's absolutely looking fairly weak. There's that hourly drop that I was talking about. We flipped that red line into resistance. Well, yeah. Like I said, I think we might be working our way down towards these lower Fibonacci levels here. Let's see what the 5-minute looks like now. Oh yeah, you can see once we kind of drop that level, I mean, that's where we started dumping. That hourly chart, it didn't look good. Warned ya. But yeah, like I said, from a daily perspective, we are still technically at support until we're not, right? Until that support level breaks, I'm just looking at it as strong support with a whole bunch of bullish divergences. So I'm not going to jump the gun and get too bearish yet. I want to wait and see what happens with this green box. And like I said, the fact that the macro 786 Fibonacci lines up with about 17.2K, I want to kind of give a little bit of wiggle room and just see what happens down to this level. And again, if this box flips into resistance, everything changes with my analysis. Not so much my analysis, I guess, because I mean, we can get that fake out and end up continuing to the upside, or get our final capitulation and get some sort of fake out. But again, the trading style, I will definitely be looking at shorting bounces, shorting relief rallies, any bearish structure, rather than looking at trying to play the bounces like I am right now. As for right now, I'm just trying to snipe very small, degenerate Fibonacci levels, basically, and hope to get into a running position. Yeah, so far respecting the 618, we do have a little, actually here, I'm gonna draw a little bit of a line, almost a downward sloping support line. We might have some kind of a range like this. I think that's something I'm going to be interested in looking at. We might see a third touch point along this downward sloping support line, which may end up in the next few hours here. It's going to start kind of lining up with that 786, 886 Fibonacci levels. So if those start lining up, I'd definitely be interested in trying to snipe a little bit of a long. We're going to have to see what happens the next few hours here. Oh, I see you shared some links there. That's cool, thanks. I'm gonna have to look into some of those links. Like I said, I don't really follow fundamentals all too much, but I might take a little peek here if I get a few minutes. But other than that, guys, yeah, for this, like I said, at this point, as far as looking at it from a micro swing here, I am seeing a little bit more room to the downside. As far as the macro scale, I am still bullish on the daily. Call me crazy all you want. Let me know what you guys think. Let's see here. Starting to look a little weaker, but again, as long as our daily candles don't actually start closing, and really, I mean, all the way to down here, I don't really want to see a daily candle close below 17.6. But like I mentioned, these last two daily candles don't look overly strong from the bears. That's why I'm not... I honestly wouldn't be too surprised to see this candle totally reverse and close green today. I mean, we're going to have to see what happens. Obviously, that doesn't have to happen. But just the fact that those two bearish candles do look so weak at this support level, I'm just thinking that any day now we're going to see some kind of an engulfing bullish candle come into play that'll get us out of this green box and will eclipse whatever red candle we have before it. And from there, we might start to see the bulls gather a little bit of momentum because, like I said, there is just so many bullish divergences. Again, everything looks very weak, but we are still at support. We have these bullish divergences on the oscillator 5, the RSI, the oscillator 4, ALGO 3 pointing out a little bit of green there. And like I said, on the weekly, that bullish divergence on the weekly ALGO 3 here. There's just a lot of bullish divergences going into support. And like I said on my Twitter there, if you were looking at a random chart displaying a whole bunch of bullish divergences while trading into a resist flip into support zone, I mean, generally speaking, when you're not playing it live, everyone figures you should be long in that area. But right now, a lot of people are bearish. That being said, guys, I guess I should be careful how I word that, because if I go to the MDX ALGO portal here, you can see that a lot more people are long right now. This is actually my main concern right now. I can't forget about this. Sorry, I almost forgot to mention this. There is a lot of longing going on in the market, so that might cause some sort of a short squeeze. Or sorry, rather a long squeeze, where everybody who's long right now absolutely see the market makers just push some kind of a flush to the downside. I mean, there's probably a ton of people that have stop losses right below my support box there around 17.5 or whatever. I think a lot of people would be very quick to get wicked out if we end up dropping this level at all. But again, with all those bullish divergences and that kind of thing, I think we got to watch for a fake out. Like I said, if a daily candle closes below that 17.6, I'd be fairly concerned, but I'll give it a little more wiggle room down towards 17.2 because of that Fibonacci line on a weekly chart. But yeah, I don't really want to see a daily candle close below these levels. I don't care if there's a wick and we get back up. That could actually be a bit of a bear trap, which would be quite bullish in my opinion. But if we start getting those daily candles actually closing below there, I think that's where we gotta look out below. But yeah, guys, I think that's about where I'm gonna leave off, unless anyone has any more questions, whether about the indicator or my analysis or altcoin requests or anything like that. But we have been at it for just over an hour here, so I might take off here. Yeah, thanks for the links on the chat there. I'll definitely have to check some stuff out. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you everybody who did tune in. And like I said, I am going to be posting this on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to this. If you want a better, more structured, laid out version of that Bitcoin cheat sheet, definitely check out this video. I think it's probably the most important video that I have made personally, as far as macro analysis goes, and just kind of touching on what I was just touching on. But like I said, it's just a little cleaner of a video, not freestyling like that. So definitely check it out. I think it lays out a lot of good points. And again, just keep in mind, like, if that support box flips into resistance, I mean, everything can change very quickly. But as far as a spot position, I'm very comfortable with these levels. I think that Bitcoin's not in as terrible of a place as a lot of people think. So we're going to have to see here. 4 hour doesn't necessarily look good. It does have a bearish divergence on the ALGO 3. Don't like to see that. RSI is still kind of climbing as we're trading in that box. Like I said, it's the daily that I really like. I like the daily and I like the weekly charts. The 4 hour and the 1 hour look a little bit weak. But yeah, just going to have to watch how this green box plays out, basically. I'm really interested to see if it holds as support or not in the next week or two here. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Yeah, like I said, watch for the video if you want. Watch that other video I pointed out there. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. Did this little poll here. Sometimes I don't have time to make videos, so I just share a little bit of analysis on Twitter anyways. With that, I think I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. See you in the chat. Peace.